A revolution is coming to China, and it could be the most devastating yet. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. But before I begin, I'm looking for a part-time writer for China Uncensored. If you're interested, I put a link to the job description below and how you can apply. But hurry, the deadline is February 15th, 2024. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. In over a decade, as the head of the Chinese Communist Party, Xi Jinping has amassed tremendous personal power. But he doesn't have a whole lot to show for it. According to the Pew Research Center, globally, people view China increasingly negatively. That trend began even before COVID. This is a direct result of Xi Jinping's actions. Domestically, the horrendous failure of Xi's zero-COVID policy led to rare protests where people actually called for Xi Jinping and the CCP to step down. Economically, it looks like China is headed into a period of deflation and possibly a recession. And the only thing Xi had going for him was his anti-corruption campaign. 5 million party members have been probed for graft. So, great success, right? No more corruption in the CCP? Oops, turns out there's still massive corruption in the military. And now, a massive anti-corruption purge is heating up again. I did a full episode about that a few weeks ago, including how corruption is so bad that Chinese missiles are filled with water instead of fuel. I'll put a link to that episode in the description for background. But Xi is running out of opportunities and friends. In a recent speech Xi gave to his anti-corruption apparatus, the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, or CCDI, makes it clear the situation is much worse than anyone expected. A new revolution is about to begin. I'll tell you more after this quick commercial break. Welcome back. From January 8th to 10th, the party held the third plenary session of the 20th Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, Xi Jinping's personal anti-corruption watchdog. And if your eyes rolled back into your head just hearing the name of that meeting, imagine how bad it was for the people attending. Here's a quote from the communique. Xi has put forward a series of original and landmark concepts, thoughts, and strategies, which formed Xi Jinping thought on the party's self-reform. This thought, a new chapter of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, has signaled that the party's understanding of the laws underlying the development of a Marxist political party and the laws underlying the governance of a communist party has reached a new height. I really hope anyone is still watching after that. So yes, everybody absolutely loves Xi Jinping thought. Everyone loves Xi Jinping. If you just keep forcing people to say it long enough, maybe it'll come true. But the doublethink was on full display at the meeting. Xi said the fight against corruption has achieved an overwhelming victory and has been comprehensively consolidated. But the situation remains severe and complex. So Xi has completely beat corruption, except for all the severe corruption that remains. Gotcha. But Xi has to admit that. You can't close out 2023 with a massive purge of the military and pretend like corruption is over. Now you might think Xi is just using his anti-corruption campaign as a sort of forever war against corruption to maintain power. That is not what's happening. Corruption is a real threat to the party's legitimacy. Way back in 2012, then Chinese leader Hu Jintao even admitted that. He said if we fail to handle corruption, it could prove fatal to the party and even cause the collapse of the party and the fall of the state. I wonder how that worked out for him. Xi made fighting corruption his thing. If he fails, that hurts him more than anything. But Xi has a plan, and it's gonna be bloody. He calls it self-revolution. Now in the English translation of this meeting with the CCDI, they call it self-reform. But no, it's self-revolution, as in good old communist revolution, purging ideological impurities, in this case anyone against Xi. Xi uses language like turning the knife inward and scraping poison from the bone. And everyone else in the party is super happy to hear it, I'm sure. Now don't get me wrong, the people Xi is going after are corrupt. Corruption is systemic in the Communist Party. It's everywhere, particularly in the military. As I mentioned in the episode about the military purge, back when Jiang Zemin or one of his people was in charge, it was common for officers to bribe their way up the ranks and engage in other corrupt activities for personal profit. Xi began asserting control over the military by promoting people who specifically couldn't move up the ranks during the Jiang era. But as we saw in the recent purges, even those promoted by Xi, like former Defense Minister Li Shangfu, were still corrupt. So basically the situation in the military now is that everyone needs to be afraid that Xi is coming after them. That was already the fear in the party at large. But now it's clear, even in his personal anti-corruption army, the CCDI, no one is safe. As China Insider, a consultancy that specializes in elite Chinese politics, points out, Xi's recent speech to the CCDI shows corruption is serious in not just key areas of the regime, but in the anti-corruption agencies themselves. Hence, Xi is subjecting the anti-corruption agencies to self-revolution. Oh yes, even the CCDI needs a good old self-revolution. That's why the state-run media report on the meeting said the attendees earnestly studied and fully digested the important speech delivered by Xi during the plenary session. They agreed that Xi's speech had provided scientific answers to major questions regarding the party's self-reform and included strategic plans for continuing and deepening the fight against corruption, which is now affecting them. Let me be clear, Xi Jinping still has a lot of power. The fact that he can not just keep pushing forward, but increase his anti-corruption campaign shows he still has the clout to do that. But he is making enemies everywhere, and the whole thing could come crashing down. So whether we're talking about Mao or Xi Jinping, why do people follow dictators? I've got a video I want to show you about that, but first, it's time to show love to the people who make this show possible, the China Uncensored 50-cent army, fans who support the show on patreon.com/China Uncensored. As my way of thanks, I answer their questions at the end of these episodes. Today's question comes from Yup. Dear Chris and team, thank you for your pursuit of justice. Making the people informed makes them less malleable to political manipulation. Can you envision any way China can become a democracy without tremendous bloodshed? And should the CCP fall and the people be given democratic liberty, how do you see this unfolding? How would China form its government? And what will it look like? I love your work. Well, thank you. I really appreciate those kind words. And yes, I absolutely can imagine a way for China to get rid of the CCP without bloodshed. Most revolutions that toppled dictators and installed democracies in the 20th century were actually non-violent revolutions. You can learn more about that in this fantastic book, Blueprint for Revolution. People in China are already incredibly disillusioned with communism. And as the party continues to tear itself apart from the inside, I think there will be a real opportunity for democracy. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly like an American-style democracy. I think China could look to its history and create a Confucian-style democracy. But I'm sure they'll look closely at the other Chinese democracy, the one in Taiwan, for inspiration. Thank you for your question and your support. And in my ongoing attempts to talk about controversial topics YouTube would otherwise censor by hiding them in gaming content, click on this video about why people follow dictators like Mao and Xi, according to Pikmin. And click on that orange button to support us on Patreon. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.